Hey folks, James Smiley here, Do It Molds Pro staff, and I want to show you a really cool jig that's pretty new on the market. A lot of people have been coming out, a lot of manufacturers have been coming out with this jig that's got these tentacles on it. And what those tentacles do is when that jig moves in the water, when that jig hits the water, these two tentacles float up in the air and they kind of move and float, and they have a real slow action. And what that does is that slow motion is what triggers bass to eat when they're looking at your jig, when they're creeping up on it and they're following it. That little bit of extra motion, what it does is it looks like the two little tentacles sticking out of a crawdad's face, and so a crawdad's sitting there and he's trying to hide, but those tentacles are still moving around, and that's what those little tentacles do. They act as antennas that a real crawdad in real life would have. So how do you make that jig? Well, it's actually very, very easy. You take your standard Do It Molds skirt making material. I'm pushing up a rubber band, a skirt band onto here on my skirt tool. I'm going to make this one green pumpkin and watermelon, and usually you want your tentacles to be a little bit different color. I like black. Maybe on a jig like this I might use black and blue, or I might use a blue tip or something like that, brown and purple is another good one. You can use red. I see a lot of guys use red. The other thing you can use for your antenna is you can use braided line. If you take some thin, like 30-pound test braid, it works pretty good too. But let me show you how to do this. Basically, you put your skirt on just the same way you would build a normal skirt. So this is a layered skirt, one of my favorite colors, and I'm gonna scoot this rubber band right to the edge. Now before I pop it in there, what you gotta do is you want to make sure now that the skirt that's in the tube, you want that to be shorter than the skirt that's sticking out. Okay, that's key. So you want longer strands that are sticking out. And what I'll do now is I'll stick this black one up in there. So you just kind of finesse it up in there. And okay, now it's in there. And now watch this. So I'm gonna pull my skirt a little bit so now I can see how far my tentacles are sticking out. There it is right there. Okay, I like it right about there. So now what I do is I pop that skirt off, or I'm sorry, I pop the rubber band off, and now that rubber band has caught my tentacles. So all you do is you cut it just like normal. Cut your skirt tabs off. Now the other end, you want to make sure you don't cut your tentacles. So cut off the tabs of the main skirt. You also want to cut off the tab end of the tentacles. And folks, there you have a jig with those long tentacles on there. And I usually do 3. Just in case I mess up. I've got 3 tentacles on here, and what I'll normally do is I'll pull one of those off once I push this up on a jig. So I'll grab a jig here real quick for you and show you how I do this. It's very simple. I always use the hook point, and I grab some of the skirt material and I pull that back. So now I've got a clear path of where that hook point should go, and I line it up right. Push that up on there. All right. I'm going to rotate this one a little bit to make sure I've got the right alignment. There you go. All right. Push it up on the final collar there. The final collar of the jig. And there you go. Now I've got 3, so I'm just going to pull one and one will come out. So that's pretty simple. If you saw that, I just like to get all these straight. That's real key, And just like that, there's your jig. It's going to move around on the bottom like that. And then you've got those 2 little tentacles sticking out that are going to help you trigger a lot of fish into eating. Go ahead and give it a try. This is James Smiley. We'll talk to you later.